good air, and that's about as good as it gets, I'm sorry. Morning, I'm Jim Appleby. I can't apologise for the accent because I can't change it, so you might just have to bear with me as we make our way through. Today, I'm here to talk to you about what I think is a really important subject, effective near miss reporting, and how if implemented right, with the right leadership, it can actually start and drive some behavioural change. We're an industry absolutely focused on lag indicators. They seem to be the staple right across. We spend an inordinate amount of time chasing them. The three main suspects, LTIFR, lost time, so they're the ones when we've really hurt somebody really badly, the ones Peter was mentioning earlier. Then, of course, we have the MTRFI, the medical treatment case, where, you know what, we didn't quite hurt them that bad, but we still inflicted pain. We combine them together and come up with TRIFR, Total Recordable Injury Frequency Rate. They absolutely dominate our landscape. We love to learn from our mistakes, usually from an incident just after it's all gone horribly wrong. We use a plethora of different investigation techniques, accident investigation, root cause, 5 whys. We issue lessons learned. We put up nice gory pictures to teach our guys not to do it again. The problem with this is the damage is done. So, we actually have the opportunity to stop that happening. We can learn from incidents before we end up with the picture. And that's why today I want to just talk about near miss. Now, like everything, it has a really big, long, fancy definition. Now, there are too many big words in there for me to try and pronounce, but given a slight shift of time, injury or damage would happen. We find things like that really complicated. So, up in New South Wales in Downer, we take a slightly different approach. Sean, my ops manager, said, well, if the box falls on his head, that's an incident. But if that box falls somewhere he deems it dangerous or unsafe, that's a near miss. There is theory behind it. So Frank Bird in the late 1960s worked for an insurance company in a fairly senior position, and he analysed 2.5 million incidents right across the broad spectrum of industry. And he came up with the following Bird's triangle, which many practitioners may know. But ultimately, what it says is for every fatal injury, for everybody we kill, we will have seriously hurt 10 in the same category. So there's your LTIs. We will also have sort of hurt 30. There's your MTI and your first aid. But interestingly, 600 times we'll have nearly done that. And that's your near miss. But what I want to do is challenge that. And I want you just to think differently. Because I don't believe it is a triangle. I believe there's 2 parts to this. And I think we have the post-incident, pick up the pieces, do the investigation, and they're the top 3. Because at that point we've hurt somebody. But I really think we have the opportunity to separate the bottom. Because that's a pre-incident. Nobody has been hurt. Nothing has been damaged. That's a near miss. And to us, down in New South Wales, if you find and solve your problems before they become incidents, you reduce the chance of the top 3 happening. That's our belief, and that's why we're on this journey. The art to most things in our industry is to keep it simple. If we were rocket scientists, we'd all work for NASA. Our approach wasn't to go through some long and laborious definition. It was to come up with a simple approach, and that's mate, that's bloody close. We built it on the values of Australian mateship, and most people have recognised the fine example of that, which was the Beaconsfield mine disaster. Sadly, they were picking up the pieces as well. Because we believe in, if you're not even prepared to look after yourself, you will look after your mates. Keeping it simple is the key, and we commenced this journey at the start of 2012. In near miss reports, quantum counts, and I'll talk about why in a little while, but that's the journey. So since the start of 2012, we continually increased the amount of near-miss reports we're getting. And to give you some scale, we employ 250 people directly, probably have up to 1,000 practitioners out there when you include the supply chain partners we have. So we've got about 1,000 people as a group here. And over the last 2 years, we've got up to the total of 6,000 near-miss reports. And I know you think, is that it? Is that all? Let me tell you, and I hang my head in shame here, the prior year to this, we had amassed the grand total out of that same 1,000 workforce of 30. 30. I'll say it just so you got the accent. That was it. But like every system, there has to be something behind it. And there are some absolute foundation stones of our programme. Any near-miss report is allowed to be done anonymously. That's the choice of the individual who gives the information. Big sticking point. That's caused probably more conversation around the country, and it certainly did in the organisation I work for. Of any report put in, we have absolutely committed that no disciplinary action will follow. That is the commitment we made. And trust me, that's a bit of pill to swallow in the corporate world. But it's something that's essential. You know, we all have cardinal rules or golden rules or, you know, the 10 Commandments. And people are reporting those to this line, and the people will not be disciplined. It's really important in our programme. It's the only way it sticks together. The third one is that we, as the leaders, the managers, the supervisors of the business, commit to contacting every single person who reports to the line as long as they've left the name. And we do that to, number one, give them recognition for taking the time to call us. Near miss is a gift. It's a present. They're giving you. And the least you can do when you get a gift is say thank you. It also gives you the opportunity to eke the little bits out of the message they've left to get some context, which adds to the value of the near miss. And it actually gives you the opportunity to demonstrate it's making a difference. As I say, in NASA we aren't. We use a very simple system. We have a hotline. Everybody in our business has in their telephone private and company near miss. It's under the same words, it's the same telephone number, it's a free number, so it doesn't cost anybody to call. And they get the opportunity to leave a message on an answer machine at any time of the day or night. We don't restrict people to using that approach, but that's been the preferred way our guys want to do it. They can send an email, they can send a text, but primarily people call into the line. The good thing about that is it's available 24/7. They can give you that information when it's happened. Once they've gone to a safe part of the site, literally the information is still hot in their head and it comes in. We log it, we approve it, it goes on, and we use the Excel. You know, nothing fancy. Excel spreadsheets work for us. We populate that into some particular categories which are locked down, and you've got to use drop-down menus, and then you get a free text. But that's really important because that gives us the opportunity to look at near misses in 3 different levels, which I'll explain in a moment. And that's the spreadsheet, as complicated as it's not. And there's some of the real-life examples of the information we get. This spreadsheet provides us data collection because data is the source of all truths. We can get into trend because we have the spreadsheet prepared in a certain way. We can look at trends, so we can look at state, site, business unit, even the person who's reporting them, see if there's a trend there. And we look at it by date. There are a plethora of different ways to draw this information out because of how it's all been set up on the pivot tables. The really important thing is you can look at it at 3 different, and we call it causes or agencies, 3 different levels of information. So this is the very headline. This is the first pie chart you'd see. That's 6,000 near miss reports. Those are the 10 categories, and they're the only 10. All information has to fit into one of those. You can see it is dominated by traffic control, which is no surprise. Also, though, you can see 20% are equipment. So that can be problems with equipment, equipment going wrong, equipment not being at all different types of equipment problems, procedural. Interestingly, breach 10%. So I've got 600 reports of people breaking rules. 600 reports where if you get caught, and this isn't a line that gets you out of trouble, but that's 10% of breaking rules. So it does happen. And all the other categories. But we then move into different areas. So I'm going to focus on traffic control just to show you, but you can do it in any of the categories. So when you drill into traffic control, that's level 2. So we break traffic control into 4 areas. So problems on site, communication issues, accidents with vehicles, third-party traffic control. So that's level 2. So we can look at it on all the different ways at this level as well if we want to. Third-party motorists is the biggest area. We'll drill into that to go to level 3. And you get 3 choices. So out of the 1,000 reports, or 1,068, that's how it's split up. 460 speeding motorists, 334 uncooperative, i.e. I'm going where I want, whether you like it or not, and then 274 abusive, which comes in all forms, as I'm sure you can imagine. That's how our system works. The system's only any good if you do something with it. So I'm just going to take you through some of the headline things we've done. We've done all sorts of different things, but I'm just going to focus on some of them to give you some background about the improvements we've made from the gifts we've been given. So 1,575 traffic control reports. This near miss line got me the opportunity to sit down with Peter Duncan of RMS, who leads the industry in New South Wales, and sit down and talk through the specific issues our guys face. It allowed me to put data on the table to tell him, demonstrate and support with facts how dangerous our industry really is, rather than assertion, guesswork, my opinion. And that got a really strong reaction and a real positive reaction from Peter, who's wholly behind trying to improve our industry. We've had a lot of data about speed and traffic, uncooperative motorists, and that's built us a history of roads we're now going to work on and what challenges we face. So we've been out on the M4 several times. Recently, we managed to present data to RMS and the Traffic Management Centre to say, here's 120 near-miss reports from the next section of road down that we've just done. We need to do it differently, or we're going to face exactly the same. They shut it. They shut the M4. Now, that took a lot of planning, but if you go there and you're proactive, you'll get a different outcome, and they bought into that theory. It's brilliant. Again, certain sites we know, and we're all going to face trouble. And the police have now bought into protecting our workforce in certain situations. The top picture there is from the Eastern Distributor, a really busy road and very narrow in Sydney. And we've had all sorts of dramas reported on there. And that's the police supporting our workforce. Interestingly, the night that picture they were took, we have a young lad called Guy Falzon. He's a traffic controller, and some bloody idiot, and I don't know what the Australian version of that is, I think it's quite similar, thought it would be funny to swerve at Ryan and pull away. He didn't think it was so funny when the police car nicked him 3 minutes later, impounded his car, charged him with negligent driving, marched him off to jail, and he's going to be made an absolute example of, I'm told, in the press and in the court. Good on him. We put mobile speed cameras on, mobile VMS, so we've used the VMS boards to put speed cameras on just as a warning to the public. We haven't got a speed camera, and it's, I'm told, tilting on the edge of legality, but it had the desired effect, and at 3 o'clock in the morning on that site, we needed it. And interestingly, our truck drivers reported that we use a lot of spotters, and they use a red flashing wand. I don't know if it's similar in Victoria, but they were saying because there's so much activity, it was difficult for them to attune into it. So we came up with a wand, and we designed a one where you pull a trigger and it goes green. So it's almost like a traffic light. So Really simple. Nothing earth-shattering, but works in our business. Overloading the trucks in 32 reports in 3 weeks, but if you remember on the early chart, that dominated the landscape that month. So we put a little focus group together of practitioners, profiling operators, truck drivers, a couple of managers, to come up with a solution to the problem. Now, the long term is to put weigh scales on everything. That's a long term law. That requires capital. So they come up with some really quite simple ideas. Now, I don't know if you can see the yellow line on the truck body. Hopefully you can. That's the maximum fill line for that body. So when you put it to that, it's fully loaded. And there's a little sticker in the back corner, and that tells the profile operator the dimensions of the body. So he's got in his head almost the volume, so he's thinking. They came up with this themselves. Was it successful? Well, we had 32 reports in 3 weeks. Since then, we average about 1 a month. We shift about 30,000 tonnes of profilings a month in this business. Effective implementation. The Bobcat, without doubt, my least favourite piece of equipment on any road site. Very popular here, certainly not with me, but you know, we need them. They're part of our business. Highly manoeuvrable, extremely unpredictable. 142 reports. One of our operators, when we sat down and said, what can we do? He come up with a set of reversing sensors similar to what you'd have on a car, retrofit, $400 a go per Bobcat. I'd highly recommend them, just to give some added safety. We increased the exclusion zone. It was 3 metres, it's now 5, because we saw that there's an accident coming with this thing. We pimped it up. So we have working lights on all machines, but what a lot of our operators of other plants said, it's very low, it's hard to see. So we put some LED lights around the top, you know, like they do on the TV where they put them underneath. We actually put them on the top to increase the visibility to other operators. And one thing that came out is if you're over 6'2" and drive a Bobcat, be careful, because if you stop suddenly, the bar, which retains you, will not stop your head hitting the windscreen. So we had Grant Woodham nearly bang his head. He's 6'8". So what we did was retrofit sash belts to give him some support, so the operator benefited. The profiler. A lot of them have electric drums to turn, some of them still don't when you want to change the teeth in the blocks. Same on stabilisers. Occasionally that does break down. And we got 12 reports of people having to move the drum manually. Now moving 2.5 tonne that way is dragging your arms. It's almost like putting your hand into the crocodile mouth. It's going to shut and it's going to hurt. 2 of our fitters took a hold of this. So Craig and Daniel, who's in the picture, they designed a tool to turn the drum without ever needing to touch it. It cost $4, I think, the first version. And these guys did it almost in the lunch breaks, actually. They then made a video of how to use it. This is people who are engaged on the journey. And, you know, John will talk at length about this. Simple, but really effective. Site congestion has been a massive issue, and it's a problem we face more and more in ever-tightening work windows. So we've had over 300 reports, which drove us to build another focus group of practitioners. We actually went to the lengths of getting some aerial photography, and I'd really recommend this. These drone things cost nothing these days to hire, borrow, steal. And looking at a work site from up there will give you an entirely different picture to standing here and looking there. And we've used that to help us become more organised on our work sites. So we have a segregated start time. So instead of the cavalry charge, we let people onto the site when they need to be there. We've improved our planning accuracy because that is vitally important. Going onto the site with foresight will help. Use technology, near maps. So before we even lay the traffic control out, we know the width of the road, so we can squeeze the running lane, which naturally slows vehicles down and maximises the work zone, rather than just accepting you've got to put them down the white line. A lot of chatter. We use radios everywhere. We didn't have enough channels. So now every gang has its own dedicated channel. getting vehicles off site. So the planning, you know, prescribe your parking area. And if it doesn't need to be on site, park it in a different street. And a prescribed truck entry point. So you always know where the trucks are coming from. Because I don't think it's any coincidence, reversing trucks are a serious, serious issue in this business. So at least my team know where they're coming from. And the easel. So the top pictures, the guys gathered around the easel at the pre-start. And they use an easel so they can redraw things. So they can put a picture on. They've got it's dynamic. They can go back at any point during the shift and change the game, get the team together, and go at it again. We've done loads of little bits, and that's a sample of some of the things we've done, but loads of little bits. We had a lot of reports about uneven ground, and uneven ground is a necessary evil because there isn't a footpath beside every road. Now, what that drove us to do is to initiate a boot check. You will be shocked how many people cannot tie their own shoelaces. I recommend go and have a look. Not at the moment, but have a look at some point. Toolboxes. Toolboxes, the little latches we use, kept flicking open, which is dangerous on its own. But when you're driving down a road and the box comes up on the side, you've then got a 6-foot-high guillotine moving adjacent to a footpath. So we checked all the locks, tightened the locks, and we actually changed them to one specific type. Handbrakes. I can tell you now, if we didn't have the near-miss line, we would never find this out. Vehicles, without the handbrakes put on properly, rolling. Because to report that, you are reporting yourself. It is an issue, or was an issue in our business. We still see it, so it's still an issue. But we start an education process. One standard tow hitch, we had about 10 different types. It was chaos. Because everyone had a slightly different safety mechanism, and you put that pin there, and you put that there. So actually, we've just gone to one standard type, so you just put that there. And of course, PPE. But we've now got a select catalogue that our guys have for the right PPE for the right occasion, because there is not one size fits all. But an effective near-miss system, in my opinion, and it is only mine, needs this. If you think you can wash your hands of it and let your business do it, you are sadly mistaken. Leadership must drive it, live it, breathe it, be involved in it, and reinforce it. And also learn the art of saying thank you for the gift you've just given me. Clear, transparent communication must be there. We use VMS boards in our business. That's one VMS board that flicks. It goes, look after your mates. Mate, that was bloody close. This many near misses, that many actioned. The near misses recorded just keeps it live and keeps it at the front of the mind. The interesting ones are the ones actioned, because that there says to all my managers, are you doing your job? It also shows all of our workforce, are they doing anything with the gift I've given them? And then you've got to feedback. It will work for a month and it will go away again. You've got to constantly reinforce, tell people what's going on, do things with the information. But for all that work, and by the way, that works less than go and investigating any incident, you'll get some benefits. Hazard and risk identification will become part of the DNA of your people. And they can't just do that in safety. It becomes part of how they operate. It has much wider benefits. You get the trend analysis, which gives you that predicting tool to have a good idea where your next incident is coming from. Think about the overloading trucks. Then think about some of the carnage you saw in Sydney with trucks tipping over, running away on the Hume Highway that were overloaded. We saw that. You'll get behavioural improvement from your people. They will improve. And John will talk more about that shortly. The great lag indicators will get better. So for all you statisticians out there, trust me, it works. And do you want to know what? If that's not encouragement alone, you'll make more money, because I do. And I'll say that with no shame. That improvement, that change in people's DNA reflects right the way through your business. But I had a really interesting conversation a few weeks ago with a bloke who will remain nameless, and he's certainly not in the room, who said, I was talking about near misses like I do quite often. 5,000 near misses? You must be really unsafe. You must be bloody crap. I went, why? How many you had? Oh, probably 60. All right, okay then. So I sent them this little graph. Let me get my left and my right. The left to right, the red one, is our TRIFR. The growing one is our near-miss reports. Coincidence? I don't think so. Then we followed on to part 2. So what's your TRIFR then? 13.3, he said, rubbing his braces. Funny that. Mine's 0.81. The mining sector want 5. They would tell you that's world class. Maybe he could think differently. And that's Colin Hendry. Happy chap, my first boss, Colin. Fabulous bloke. Taught me about asphalt all those years ago, Michael was mentioning. Taught me some really good habits, Colin. Taught me some really bad ones. Colin was a great supervisor. Push a job on. Let's get it done. Let's get there, crack on, get out. Lived his life in a hurry, Colin. Right up until the 1st of August 2010 when I killed him. I was Colin's boss then. We run over his head with a road sweeper. Sadly enough, 24 years ago, if we'd had a report in line where I wouldn't get sacked, and neither would Colin, I could have reported, I could have saved his life. Don't join my club. It's not a good space. And you want to know what? If your company don't put a near-miss line in, ring mine. Thank you.